is Janette from Case Flower School, and this is your door wreath making kit. So now I'm going to show you how you can make up your own Christmas door wreath. If this arrives a little bit early, it will be important to open out the box, okay, and store the frame outdoors, maybe on the grass, out on cement. Keep it in a cool place, and it'll be no harm at all to maybe throw a little bit of water on it or keep it misted lightly. But when you open the box, you'll have a little bag of knickknacks, okay? That'll be a surprise. We'll come back to you that in a second. And then you will actually have your door frame, okay? So this is all fresh foliage, and this needs to be stored outdoors to keep it cold. Whatever you do, don't store that in your house, okay? And as I said, they will last at least 4 weeks. Some people will come back and they'll say they last about 6 weeks. And with the box, it's up to you. If you decide that you're going to give this door wreath to somebody as a gift, wouldn't this be a nice box then to maybe give to them as a present? Unless it has your address and a stamp on it. Okay, we'll work on opening up our lucky bag. What's in the bag? You will need a sharp scissors, by the way. And the other thing that you're going to need is a container for holding the wires. So you can open out your lucky bag, empty it all out onto the table. We'll see what we have. And you can see there we have some florist wires, okay? So undo the sellotape that's on your florist wires, and maybe if you have a glass container, an empty glass, pint glass, you know, that way will do fine, okay? So remove the sellotape, and then you can just stand your wires in one of your containers there. I just have these metal containers that we use here at the school. Now, in our kit, we have approximately 8 to 10 pine cones. These will all have to be wired, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. Also in our kit, we have some kind of like flocked or velvet poinsettia heads, okay? They're all red, and they all have a little bit of an angle on them. So if you could spend the time now and just give them a little bit of a straighten. So just go along. There'll be 5 of these heads, okay? So just straighten them all up, just slightly. If there's still a little bit of a bend on it, it's absolutely fine. But just do the best you can and try and straighten the tops of these heads. I find if you do that, they sit nicer on the door wreath, okay? So there's our 5 heads straightened up. Also in the kit is 5. Now you could get some silver. You could also get some red glitter, or you could get the gold glitter. We kind of vary them just to make them a little bit different. So in my particular lucky bag, okay, I had 5 of these. They're like a kind of a gold glitter, gold poinsettia, and there's a little tag on them. So you can see there, I'm just removing the tag, but there was no need to straighten the stems on them, right? Now again, that could be a different colour in your one. We have our pine cones, okay, and we're going to wire them in a few minutes. And we also have our bow, right? So there may be a little bit of elastic or twine holding your bow together, so you can open that out and try and flatten it so that you get the creases out of it. Now the best thing to do is make the bow first. And it's easy to substitute the bow. Like if you go into a lot of the walk around shops and that, you can buy fabric ribbon in lots of different colours. So if you prefer a different colour bow, it's not a big deal. So to make this bow, it's as if you were putting it around your neck like a scarf, and you were crossing it under your chin. And that's the technique for making the bow. But when you're literally making it, you can't have it wrapped around your head, okay? So what you do is, I'll do it against the screen here. This ribbon says let it snow on it, okay? Again, they could be a little bit different. It's like a hessian with a red glittery trim on it. So I'm going to I'm going to turn it the other way, so let me see, turn it this way, just so the writing is going the right angle. So I'm going to pretend that I'm wrapping it around somebody's neck, and I'm just going to get our 2 tails there, approximately the same length as each other. Now again, don't worry about that too much, because I am going to trim them afterwards. And if you want to make your bow bigger or smaller, you can adjust them tails, right? So this is where it's wrapped around the neck. Now, the bigger the neck is, the bigger the bow is. So just to show you, if I just make the tails a little bit shorter, you can see there the neck is that little bit larger. So it's completely up to you what size to make it. I'm just going to go back there a little bit. I just prefer it to be a little bit smaller. So where this finger is, fingers are dirty here from the wires, is what I call the back of the bow. And down here where this finger is, this is what I call the front of the bow. So you're going to bring the back of the bow in level with the front of the bow. Can you see like that there? And if you turn it on its side, and this is what we often call like the number 8. If you look at it, you can actually see the figure 8. And with your 2 thumbs, I'm going to come this way to you, you're now going to squeeze it in, okay? So in the centre of the number 8, you're going to make a little bit of a gather, or a little bit of a pleat, or a little bit of a squash, or a little bit of a squeeze. It doesn't matter what you call it. Can you see the way I've squeezed in the centre of the bow? and then using one of the florist wires. And the trick you're going to see all the time is a long piece of wire and a short piece of wire. So I'm going to wrap the wire around the centre of the bow, that I'm leaving a short piece of wire and a long piece of wire. And the trick is you squeeze them together. So we just squeeze them together, and the long piece of wire gets wrapped around the short piece of wire. And you can wrap it around 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 times until you feel it's really secure, and straighten it back out again. You can then go back. Now this ribbon has a little bit of body in it, okay? And you can then use your finger and your thumb like a pliers, to see like that, to kind of like fluff out the bow or to stretch out the bow. So there you can see the way I'm stretching it out. Now I like to give these a little bit of a cut, okay, a little fancy trim. Also it stops the ribbon fraying. So if you just fold that over slightly in half, okay, and when you fold it over, you'll have the folded side of the ribbon and you'll have the open side of the ribbon. So you always start on the open side of the ribbon and you cut on a 45-degree angle up towards the folded side of the ribbon. And when you do that, naturally you get that little V, or the dovetail as they call it. And now I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. So I'm going to fold it over in half. I'll have the folded side of the ribbon and I'll have the open side of the ribbon. Because one of these was a bit shorter than the other, I'm cutting this one up a little bit higher. So again, starting on the open side of the ribbon, I'm cutting my 45-degree angle up towards the fold of the ribbon. And when I open it out, can you see the way I get like my little ducktail? So there is my little bow ready to go on the wreath. Now what you have to decide is, do you want your bow at the top of the wreath or at the bottom of the wreath? Some people like them at the top, some people like them at the bottom. We've often done a poll on Instagram and it's nearly always worked out 50-50. So just look at your wreath frame and decide yourself, like sometimes your eye is drawn to an area. For some reason my eye is kind of drawn there, and that would be the place where you will put the bow. But listen, if your eye is drawn somewhere else, it really doesn't matter. There's no top and bottom to the frame. So wherever you feel that you want to place the bow, that's where it's going to go. And then you decide, is the bow going to look that direction, you know, that way, or is the bow going to be down the bottom of it? So I want to put my bow at the bottom. So this is the area that I have picked on my frame. So bring that over the edge of the table. Now again, this is a technique we will be using all the time. One hand will be always on the top of the frame, controlling the decoration. In our case, it's controlling the bow. And one hand will be underneath all the time, controlling the wire. So basically, the wire of the bow is going to go down through the frame, okay? Push it right down, and as I said, one hand is controlling it, okay, holding it secure, and the other hand is meeting the wire to see underneath. But normally I do this flat on the table, you know that way, but I'll just hold it up so you can see what I'm doing. Where the wire comes through the opposite side, I'm going to bend it over like into a U-bend or a horseshoe shape, okay? And basically I'm going to bring it across and stick it back up into the frame. Now it's easier to do it on the flat of the table, but I bring it over the edge of the table so one hand is able to work freely underneath. So my wire has gone through, this hand controls the bow, this hand is underneath, it has the wire, it's bent into the horseshoe shape as I showed you. I'm just pulling it across and sticking it back up into the frame. Wherever it happens to stick in through the branches, sticking through the reel wire, sticking through the wire frame, anything at all, just stick it up through there. If it comes through the other side, just bend it and stick it back down again. And that just holds your bow in place. So in that case there, you can see my bow is at the end of my wreath frame. If I turn it upside down and I turn the bow the opposite direction, I could have my bow at the top. Now the next thing then is decorating it with the cones, okay? So this is where I'm going to wire up our 10 pine cones. So to wire up the pine cones, you're going to use the wires that I gave you. You'll only need 10 of them. Now I sent out more than 10 just to make sure that you had enough. So with a pine cone, you have a top and you have a bottom. And you have what we call the petals, okay? So what you do is you place the wire, I'll do this a few times, you place the wire in between the petals of the cone, down low, and you leave a little bit of the wire sticking out. Hold it with your thumb. The long piece of wire, you fish it or fooster it in between the petals all the way around until it comes around and it actually meets the short bit of wire. You can crisscross them like what I'm doing there. Do you see one cross over the other? And when you cross over the other, all you do is twist once, twist twice, and stop. Now some people will keep twisting, 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 and you're going to hurt your fingers. Get the second cone. Same idea. Place it in between the pine cones. One little bit of wire sticking out, one long piece of wire coming out the opposite side. The long piece of wire fishes in between the petals all the way around till it comes around, it crisscrosses over the other piece of wire, and again 2 twists of your fingers and it's done. Now this can take a little bit of time because obviously you have 10 pine cones to do, right? But again, if you have anybody at home, you can show them what you're doing and they can give you a hand. Now people often say, well, why won't I keep twisting the wire to get rid of that raw little bit of wire? Do you see that sticking out each time? It's going to be hidden, it's going to be hidden when I decorate the wreath. And what will happen is if I keep twisting the wire with the tops of my fingers, I'll end up tearing the skin on my fingers, you know, that way. And then you'll have a sore finger and you won't be able to do much more wreaths. Another thing that you could do if you choose, okay, is with the pine cones, is you can paint them. So if you have any white paint there, you could paint them white, and again, they would look lovely, especially with the red poinsettias. Or again, you can use aerosol sprays and you could spray them. Like some of the supermarkets sell tins of sprays, whether it be gold, silver, rose gold or copper. So depending on the decoration that you're going to use, in my case I'm using, say, the gold poinsettias, you could spray the pine cones gold, and again it would give it more of a glitz. Personally, I just like them natural, okay, so I'm just going to leave mine natural. So that's my 10 pine cones wired up. I may not use all 10 pine cones when I go to add them into the wreath. Now, for somebody starting off, we'll just leave them there, they'll be grand. For somebody starting off and is unsure about where to place the cones, the best thing to do is just rest them on top of the base, do you see, like that? And sometimes maybe bring a cone towards the inside, a cone towards the outside, a cone towards the inside, a cone towards the outside, just randomly like that, to give you an idea where you may put the pine cones. Now that's not saying they'll exactly go in that spot, and I've only 9 of them used up there. There's the 10th one. If you use the 9 of them, grand, and if you only use 8, that's absolutely fine. What I would say to you is try not to keep them in a perfect circle. That's a mistake people make, is they put the cones in nearly a straight line around the exact centre, and it makes the wreath look really, really skimpy. Like this is a nice chunky size wreath frame, okay? So you might as well decorate it chunky to get better mileage out of it. Also, you will be using your 5 poinsettias, and we're going to try and space them out, okay? Now try to avoid using 4, because 4 makes a square shape. But listen, if you choose to use 4, that's fine as well. And again with the poinsettias, it's just rest them and say, well, one about there, a second one about there, a third one about there, a fourth one about there. Haven't got much room, so we move that around there, move over in the bed, move over in the bed, move over in the bed, and there's the last one in the bed. And to see the way you can space them out like that. So you have an idea now how to space the 10 pine cones out, how to space the 5 poinsettias out, and obviously the little bits of glitter will work in between that. Now I'm going to put the poinsettia heads in first because I think that works out the easiest way for you. Now when I go to place the poinsettias in, I'll be using the same technique as the bow, as in one hand is on top supporting and one hand is underneath, grabbing, in this stage, the stem, okay, which we'll call the wire, because there is a wire inside that, and I will be doing the same thing. I'll be making that little horseshoe bend. This is a little bit stiffer than the wire, but listen, it's not that hard. You'll be well able to do it. So, you've decided roughly where you're going to place them. Bring it over the edge of the table. Like when I was putting the bow in, it's easier to stick the stem right through. Pick your spot. There's our stem. Stick it right through the frame. Push it down as far as you want. One hand secures it and holds it in place. The other hand is going to grab the stem. There's the stem. Do you see it coming out the other end? So one hand grabs the stem, makes a horseshoe bend and just pushes it nice and secure up into the frame. A little tip for you. Make a shallow horseshoe. Don't make a real wide horseshoe. Make it small and it's extra secure. Turn it around on the table and place in the second one. So again, press it down, horseshoe bend, up into the frame, and there's our second one in place. Turn it around, there's our third one, place it down, make your horseshoe bend, stick it back up into the frame. Sometimes you don't catch it, there we go, and there's our third one in. Do you see how easy these are? Here is our fourth one, stick it down into the frame. Now by the way, the poinsettia heads come in other colours. And if maybe somebody decided that they might like to make another one, okay, check out the walk-around shops. They often sell little bunches of poinsettias, and again you could cut up the bunch and you could get your 5 heads. As I said, try to avoid 4. 3 is probably a better number to use, but again it could be a little bit skimpy looking. 4 is inclined to make that square shape, so that's why I just say avoid the 4, okay. So there is our 5 poinsettia heads divided onto our spruce base, or our nobilis base. So now I'm going to decorate with the cones. And remember I said about the in and out with the cones. So So same idea, bring the bring the wreath frame over the edge of the table. Pick a space where there isn't already a decoration, as in there's no poinsettia, okay? Stick the wire through. One hand holds the pine cone and secures it, and one hand is securing the wire underneath into a horseshoe bend and holding it in place. Then I'm working towards the inside of the frame, so stick the wire down through the frame. One hand holds the pine cone, secures it in place, and the other hand bends up the wires. Now you will find when you go to put the wires into the base now, after bending up the poinsettia heads, it feels so much easier, you know that way, because obviously the wires are that little bit lighter than the stem that's actually on the poinsettia. So you can see the way I'm working inside and out, and that just makes your wreath that little bit chunkier. Now it's completely up to you what decorations you want to add to it, you know that way. So again, this is what we have sent out in the kit, is the pine cones, poinsettias, and then a little bit of glitter. But if you're at home and you feel that you'd like to leave the glitter out and keep it more natural, that's absolutely fine. Or again, if maybe your local shop is selling, you know, the dehydrated lemon slices, orange slices and grapefruit slices, again you could wire up some of them and you could add them through it. In case you're wondering, you just stick the wire basically through it. Again, long wire, short wire, squeeze them together and twist it. And again, they'd be really easy to add to it. Or little bunches of cinnamon sticks, you can buy them in the supermarkets, and a lot of the Asian shops have the pine cone or have the cinnamon sticks. And again, it would give a lovely scent. I've one left over and I'm just going to put it in this spot here. And that's what my wreath frame looks like so far, with my 10 pine cones and my 5 poinsettia heads. And to be honest, you could nearly leave it like that if you wanted. But now I'm going to add a little bit of bling, because I like a little bit of bling in my wreaths. Now, when it comes to putting them on the door, this is ideal to put on a door. But then people often say to me, could you put it on a grave? Absolutely. If you would prefer this to be a grave wreath, absolutely. You could leave it as it is. But if it was me, I know for my family, they're a bit like me, they like a little bit of bling, and I add the bling in as well. But for the moment, we're doing it as a door wreath. Now what I'm going to do is probably in between each of the poinsettia heads, I'm going to add, can you see the little bit of gold bling? You could have silver or you could have red, okay? I kind of mixed them all up just to make them a little bit different. So again, same idea, there's a thicker stem on these. I'm sticking them down through the base, where the plastic stem is coming through the opposite side. I'm grabbing it, making a little horseshoe bend and sticking it back up into the frame, like making a little hook just to hold it in place. If you find there's not much space, do you see the way you can move the pine cone out of the way? Because remember, they're on wires and the wires will move easily enough. This is definitely giving it a little bit of bling. So there's 3 of them in so far. Here's our 4th one. There we go. And will we get the 5th one in? It's completely up to you. I have a little bit of space, so I'm probably going to put the 5th one in down here. But if you want to leave it out, you can. Or another little option, you could add it in between the bows. You see, like that in there. But I'm going to go into this spot here because I have a little bit of a gap. So I'm going to add it in there. So there is my decoration on my door wreath. All I need now, you can fluff up the bow again, by the way, if it gets flattened. All I need now is a little piece of twine or string, or even florist ribbon, anything at all, just to make a little string on it to tie it onto your door handle or your door knocker. But a lot of people now actually buy a door hanger. So in a lot of the walk around shops, they'll have like a little bracket that you can buy that hooks onto your door. It's like a co-hanger, and the wire frame at the back will actually hook onto it, and there's your Christmas door wreath. Really easy to make, and it's going to last at least a month. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody's door wreaths. Maybe some photographs of them hanging on the door. If you do post them on your Instagram page, any chance of tagging us, Kay's Flower School on Instagram, or if you post them, maybe we have a group called Kay's Flowery Fun Group, or Kay's Flower School on Facebook. We'd really appreciate if you did post some of your photographs over on our Facebook pages. We'd absolutely love to see them. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to maybe see you next year. And if anybody has any questions at all, feel free to either email us info@flowerschoolireland.com, or again, you can always, if you're watching this on YouTube, etc., put a question in the comments. Best of luck. Again, my name is Janette from Kay's Flower School, and our email address is info@flowerschoolireland.com.